Have you ever felt like everything in your life was falling apart? Like no matter what you did, you just couldn't win? I see you nodding. We've all been there. But what if I told you that you will never, ever lose at any situation in your life? That's right, never. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Yet this is exactly what ancient wisdom has been trying to tell us for thousands of years. The secret lies not in some magical ability to predict the future or control outcomes, but in something far more powerful, a complete shift in how you see the world. Think about your biggest defeat right now. Hold it in your mind. Feel its weight. Now, what if that defeat isn't real? What if it's just a story you're telling yourself? What if every single failure in your life is actually a doorway to something greater? In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you timeless Buddhist teachings that have transformed millions of lives throughout history. These aren't complicated philosophies. They're practical tools that you can apply today, right now, to never lose again. The most successful, peaceful, and happy people throughout history weren't the ones who never faced challenges. They were the ones who understood these principles I'm about to share with you. Are you ready to join them? Are you ready to discover how you can turn any situation, no matter how devastating it seems, into a victory? Let's begin this journey together. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never see defeat the same way again. The first thing to understand, the old man continued, is that what we call winning and losing are just ideas we've created in our minds. They aren't real in the way a tree or the ground beneath us is real. They're like the shadows cast by clouds, always changing, never solid. He picked up a fallen leaf. Look at this leaf. Is it winning or losing right now? Such questions make no sense for the leaf. It simply is. The same is true for everything that happens in your life. The woman frowned. But my business failed. That's not just in my mind. I lost real money, real opportunities. Events happened. Yes, but calling them defeat is something you added, he explained. When we attach these labels of victory or defeat to situations, we create our own suffering. It's like carrying heavy stones that nobody asked us to carry. He gestured toward the sky. Buddhist wisdom teaches that clinging to outcomes, wanting things to be only one way, creates our pain. When you desperately want to win, you plant the seeds of suffering whether you get what you want or not. The old man shared a story about the Buddha himself, who gave up a kingdom, wealth, and power, what many would consider the ultimate victory in life, because he understood these were just temporary states that couldn't bring lasting peace. There's also an important teaching called non-self, or anatta. The man continued. It means there isn't a solid, unchanging you who wins or loses. We're always changing, flowing like a river. The you who faced this business challenge isn't even exactly the same you sitting here now, and won't be the same you who exists tomorrow. The woman looked at her hands, considering this idea. So, if I'm always changing, then my defeat isn't permanent either? Exactly, the old man smiled. Ancient teachers tell stories of people who faced much worse situations than yours, losing loved ones, health, freedom, yet found peace by understanding this truth. One famous story tells of a monk who, when robbers took everything he owned, bowed to them and said, "I wish I could give you the beautiful moon as well." He understood what was truly valuable couldn't be taken. The woman sat quietly for a moment. So instead of seeing myself as a failure who lost everything, you can see yourself as someone experiencing a natural part of life's rhythm, the old man finished. Neither winning nor losing, just learning, growing, and continuing your journey. He stood up slowly. When you stop dividing experiences into victories and defeats, you'll find something remarkable, a peace that doesn't depend on how things turn out. As they walked through a nearby garden, the old man pointed to a puddle from yesterday's rain, now almost evaporated in the morning sun. "Look there," he said. "Yesterday, that puddle seemed so permanent. Today, it's nearly gone. This is how all your problems are, even the biggest ones." The woman thought about her business failure. "But my situation feels so solid, so real." "That's the trick our minds play on us," he replied. "They convince us that what's happening now will last forever. But nothing does, good or bad." The old man picked up a stopwatch from his pocket. "Try something with me. Close your eyes and notice your breathing. I'll time 1 minute." When the minute ended, he asked, "What happened to the thoughts you had at the beginning of that minute?" "They changed," she replied, surprised. "I started thinking about my business, then my breathing, then about being hungry, then back to my breathing." Exactly. Even your thoughts about your problems don't stay the same. If your own thoughts about your problems can't remain constant for 1 minute, how can the problems themselves be permanent? He guided her to a bench where they sat in silence for a moment. "The wise ones teach us to watch closely how problems naturally dissolve," he continued. "Just as winter always gives way to spring, difficult times always transform into something else. The reason this helps us is simple. When you truly understand that every failure is temporary, you stop being afraid of it. And when you're not afraid, you can act with wisdom instead of panic." The woman remembered how she'd made rushed decisions out of fear when her business started failing, which only made things worse. "There's a practice that helps," the old man offered. "When something difficult happens, say to yourself, 'This too shall change.' Not as a wish, but as a fact, like gravity or the sunrise. This isn't permanent. Nothing is." "Does that mean good things also don't last?" she asked. "Yes, but there's freedom in that too. When we know pleasant experiences are temporary, we appreciate them more deeply while they're here. And when we know unpleasant experiences are temporary, we can bear them with more patience." He taught her a simple meditation to use whenever she felt overwhelmed. Just close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and watch how your feelings shift and change with each breath. Even in just those few moments, nothing stays exactly the same. This is impermanence at work, right inside you. The woman practiced it right there on the bench and felt a subtle shift in her heavy heart. "The next time you face a crisis," the old man said, "instead of saying, 'I failed,' try saying, 'This situation is changing,' because it is always, whether you notice it or not." As they continued walking, dark clouds suddenly gathered overhead. Other people in the garden began hurrying away, annoyed at the unexpected change in weather. "Let's stay," the old man suggested calmly, finding shelter under a pavilion as rain began to fall. Notice how differently people react to the same rain. Some get angry, some worried, some just adapt. The woman watched as a young boy nearby jumped happily in a puddle while his mother smiled, unbothered by the mud splashing on her shoes. "That," said the old man, pointing to the mother, "is equanimity. It's a balanced mind that stays steady no matter what's happening around it." "How do you develop that?" the woman asked, thinking of how quickly she'd panicked when her business faced its first real problem. "Through daily practice," he replied. "Each morning when you wake up, take 5 minutes to sit quietly. Notice your breath going in and out. When thoughts come, just let them float by like clouds. Don't chase after them or push them away." He explained how this simple practice gradually strengthens the mind's ability to stay balanced. It's like exercising a muscle. The more you practice staying calm with small irritations, the stronger you'll be when big challenges come. "But what about when everything seems to be falling apart?" she asked. "How do you stay balanced then?" The old man smiled. "There's a practice for those moments too. When everything seems to be crashing down, take 3 slow breaths and ask yourself, 'Is my mind adding anything extra to this situation?'" He explained that in difficult moments, our minds often add layers of worry, judgment, and fear on top of what's actually happening. It's like if this rain came and you thought, "This always happens to me. My whole day is ruined. What if it floods?" That's all extra weight you're adding to simple raindrops. The woman realized she'd been doing exactly this with her business situation, adding fears about her future, judgments about her abilities, and comparisons to others on top of the basic facts. Some of the greatest teachers were known for their remarkable calm in extreme situations, the old man continued. There's a story of a master whose house burned down with all his possessions inside. When people came running to tell him, he simply said, "Oh, is that so?" and continued sipping his tea. Not because he didn't care, but because he understood that losing his composure wouldn't bring his house back. The woman found this hard to imagine. "I don't think I could ever be that calm." "You don't have to be perfect," the old man assured her. "Even small improvements in equanimity make a big difference. When you stay even a little calmer in difficult situations, you make better decisions. When you're balanced, you can see solutions that panic would hide from you." He taught her a simple technique for difficult interactions. When someone upsets you, imagine there's a space between their actions and your response. In that space, you have the freedom to choose how you'll react. That space is equanimity. The rain began to ease, and sunshine broke through the clouds, creating a rainbow over the garden. "Look how even the sky doesn't hold on to one state for long," the old man said. "When you maintain your balance through life's storms, you'll find rainbows waiting on the other side." After the rain, they continued their walk, now along a path that had become somewhat muddy and difficult. The woman carefully avoided the puddles, trying to keep her shoes clean. The old man, however, walked straight through. "Sometimes," he said, "what looks like an obstacle is actually a teacher in disguise." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Mud is a teacher?" "Everything can be," he smiled. "Look closely at the mud. See how it shows footprints clearly? The very thing that makes it difficult to walk on also makes it excellent for tracking. Every obstacle contains a hidden gift." He picked up a small stone that was blocking part of the path. Ancient wisdom teaches that every barrier we face holds a lesson designed exactly for our growth. The bigger the obstacle, the more important the lesson. "What lesson could my business failing possibly teach me?" the woman asked. "That's for you to discover," the old man replied. "But you'll only find it when you stop seeing the failure as your enemy and start seeing it as your guide." He explained a practice called mindful awareness that could help. When facing a problem, try sitting quietly with it instead of immediately trying to escape it. Ask yourself, what is this difficulty trying to show me? What skills or understandings am I developing because of this challenge? The woman remembered how her business struggle had forced her to learn new skills she'd been avoiding, and how it had revealed which friends truly supported her. "There's a practice of actually thanking your obstacles," the old man continued. "It might sound strange, but when you say thank you to a problem, you shift your relationship with it. You stop being its victim and start becoming its student." He told her about a famous teacher who spent years in prison. Instead of becoming bitter, he used that time to develop his inner peace. After his release, he said the prison had been his greatest monastery. His jailers thought they were punishing him, but they were actually giving him the perfect conditions for deep transformation. "But how do I actually change how I see my situation?" the woman asked. "I can't just pretend to feel differently. Try this simple technique," he suggested. "Take your current view of the situation and flip it completely. You see your business failure as a disaster that proves you're inadequate. What if you viewed it as the perfect preparation for your next success? What if this experience is giving you exactly what you'll need later?" The woman thought about this. "So instead of seeing my failure as proof I can't run a business, you could see it as essential training for running a better one," he completed. Every master was once a disaster at their craft. The difference is they used their failures as fuel. He pointed to a beautiful lotus flower blooming at the edge of a muddy pond. That flower can't grow in clean water. It needs the mud to thrive. Some of the most beautiful human qualities, resilience, compassion, wisdom, only bloom in difficult conditions. As they walked on, the woman noticed she'd stopped avoiding the muddy patches. Instead, she found herself curious about what each new obstacle along the path might have to teach her. Their path led them to a small tea house at the edge of the garden. An elderly woman greeted them with warm smiles and set out 2 steaming cups. The old man thanked her with genuine appreciation that seemed to brighten her entire face. "Did you notice something?" he asked after she left. I simply thanked her, yet she glowed with happiness. That's because intentions carry energy that others can feel. The woman nodded. She seemed to light up. The power of intention is like an invisible rudder that steers your life, the old man explained. Before any word or action comes an intention, a purpose in your heart. This hidden beginning shapes everything that follows. He stirred his tea thoughtfully. Think of it like planting seeds. You can plant seeds of blame, victory, or revenge. Or you can plant seeds of growth, understanding, and peace. Both may look the same on the surface, but they'll grow into completely different gardens. How do I know if my intentions are good? The woman asked, thinking about her business. She had started it to prove herself to her critical father. There's a simple path to follow, the old man replied. Ask yourself 3 questions before any important decision. Will this harm anyone? Is this coming from a place of fear or love? Will this create more peace or more conflict? He explained that wise teachers throughout history recommended regularly checking our intentions through quiet reflection. Each morning, take a moment to set your intentions for the day. This doesn't need to be complicated, just a simple, "Today I intend to act with kindness and wisdom." The woman realized she'd never thought about business this way. Her focus had always been on results, not the intentions behind her actions. But what about when my intentions are mixed? She asked. Sometimes I want to help others, but I also want recognition. That's normal, the old man assured her. Our intentions are rarely pure at first. The practice is to notice them without judgment, then gently redirect them. It's like training a puppy with patience and consistency. He taught her a short meditation to purify intentions. Close your eyes and imagine your goal. Then ask yourself, what is my deepest purpose here? Let the honest answer rise naturally. If it's not aligned with peace and well-being, simply ask, what would be a better intention? And reset your course. How does this connect to never losing? The woman asked. When your intentions are aligned with wisdom and compassion, you've already won before anything happens, he explained. Even if the outer results aren't what you expected, you've planted good seeds that will eventually bear fruit. He told her about a teacher who failed repeatedly at establishing a community center. After 5 attempts, most would have given up. But his intention was to serve others, not to succeed personally. On his 6th try, he created a center that helped thousands. His first 5 failures weren't losses, they were preparation, because his intention remained pure. Intentions also shape what we see, the old man added. If you approach life with the intention to find problems, you'll see them everywhere. If you intend to find opportunities, that's what you'll notice instead. The woman sipped her tea, contemplating how different her business might have been if she'd started with clearer intentions. As they left the tea house, they passed a small garden where an old gardener was tending to plants with extraordinary care. He moved with precision and focus, completely absorbed in trimming each branch perfectly. Yet, when a sudden gust of wind scattered his carefully raked leaves, he simply smiled and began again without a hint of frustration. Now there's a master at work, the old man said, nodding toward the gardener. But all his work just got undone, the woman noted. Doesn't he care? Oh, he cares deeply about his work, but not about owning the results, the old man explained. He's practicing the art of unattached action. He gives his absolute best effort, then releases all claim to what happens next. The woman watched as the gardener continued his work with the same careful attention as before. I don't understand how someone can work so hard but not care about the outcome. It's not that he doesn't care, the old man clarified. It's that he separates his part, the doing, from what he cannot control, the result. This is one of life's most liberating secrets. He explained that attachment to outcomes is like trying to control the weather, impossible and exhausting. When we tie our peace to specific results, we set ourselves up for suffering. The world rarely unfolds exactly as we wish. But if I don't care about results, why would I try at all? The woman asked. You still do your very best, but for the joy of excellent action itself, not just for what it might bring you, he replied. Like an archer who practices the perfect shot, whether or not it hits the target. The practice itself becomes the reward. The old man guided her to a bench. Try something with me. Think of your business again, but this time, separate your actions from what happened afterward. Were your efforts themselves valuable, regardless of the outcome? The woman reflected. I learned so much. Built relationships, developed skills. Exactly. All of that remains yours, regardless of whether the business succeeded in the way you hoped. He taught her a simple practice. When working on something important, say to yourself, I will give this my absolute best, then release it completely. This isn't giving up. It's giving your best without burdening yourself with what you cannot control. What about seeking approval? The woman asked. I realized now I was desperate for others to validate my business success. That's one of the heaviest burdens we carry. The old man nodded. Meeting others to approve our path means giving them the key to our happiness. True freedom comes when you can say, I value your opinion, but my worth doesn't depend on it. He shared the story of a renowned artist who created hundreds of paintings but never sold them. People called him a failure. Yet he painted every day with joy and died peacefully. Years later, his work was discovered and praised worldwide. But the real victory was his already. He had lived doing what he loved, free from needing results or recognition. The woman thought about her own work. How much of her suffering came not from the business failing, but from her desperate attachment to a specific outcome. There's a simple saying that captures this wisdom, the old man said. Do your best and leave the rest. This doesn't mean being careless. It means being so careful with your actions that you can release their results with confidence. As they continued their walk, they came across a man sitting on a bench, his face drawn with worry. He was frantically checking his phone, sighing heavily. Without hesitation, the old man approached him. Excuse me, he said gently. You seem troubled. Can I help in any way? The stranger looked up, surprised. At first, he seemed ready to dismiss the offer, but something in the old man's sincere expression made him pause. I just lost my job, he said finally. After 15 years at the company, the woman watched as the old man sat beside the stranger, listening with complete attention as he shared his story. There was no advice giving, just presence and understanding. After a few minutes, the stranger's breathing had slowed, and he seemed calmer. As they walked away, the woman asked, Did you know him? No, the old man smiled. But his suffering is no different from yours or mine. Compassion means recognizing that we're all in this together. He explained that compassion, caring about others' pain, dissolves our sense of personal defeat. When you're drowning in your own problems, turn your attention to helping someone else. It's like magic. Your own troubles don't disappear, but they no longer define your entire world. But what if I'm too overwhelmed by my own problems to care about others? The woman asked. Start small, he suggested. When you're feeling the most frustrated, pause and think of someone else who might be struggling. Send them a simple wish for peace, even just in your mind. This tiny shift from self-focus to care for another can break the spell of personal defeat. He taught her a practice for moments of feeling like a failure. Place your hand on your heart and say, "This hurts, and this is part of being human. Others feel this too." Then imagine extending that same understanding to everyone who's struggling just like you. The woman remembered how isolated she'd felt when her business failed, as if she was the only person in the world experiencing such shame and disappointment. "There's a story," the old man continued, "about a mother whose child died. Mad with grief, she went to a wise teacher begging for medicine to bring her baby back. He told her he could help, but first she needed to bring him a mustard seed from a home that had never known loss. She went door to door, but every household had experienced death. Eventually, she realized that suffering is universal. This understanding didn't erase her grief, but it connected her to others instead of isolating her in her pain. "How is this related to never losing?" the woman asked. "When you respond to difficulty with compassion for yourself and others, you transform what could be a devastating personal defeat into a moment of human connection," he explained. "The situation hasn't changed, but you've changed how you carry it. Instead of being crushed by it, you use it to deepen your humanity." He pointed out how great spiritual leaders throughout history responded to personal attacks with compassion rather than defensiveness. They didn't see themselves as losing battles, but as gaining opportunities to practice understanding. "Compassion expands your awareness beyond yourself," the old man said. "When your consciousness includes others' well-being alongside your own, you've already transcended winning and losing. You've moved to a larger game where we all rise or fall together." As evening approached, dark clouds gathered again. The woman glanced up nervously, clearly worried about getting caught in another downpour. "We should hurry back," she said, quickening her pace. "Wait," the old man said gently, touching her arm. "Let's try something different this time." He guided her to a covered pavilion where they could watch the approaching storm. "Instead of resisting what's coming, let's simply be with it." "But we'll get wet if we don't get back soon," she protested. "Perhaps," he smiled. "But there's something important to understand here. Much of our suffering comes not from the rain itself, but from our fight against it." He explained that acceptance doesn't mean giving up or being passive. Acceptance is simply acknowledging what is already true. The rain is coming whether we accept it or not. But by fighting reality, we add a layer of unnecessary suffering on top of whatever is happening. The woman thought about how much energy she'd spent denying her business failure, making excuses, blaming others, anything to avoid facing the simple truth of what had happened. "There's a big difference between acceptance and resignation," the old man continued. "Resignation says, 'This is terrible and I can't do anything about it.' Acceptance says, 'This is what's happening right now.' Now, what's the wisest response?" A flash of lightning illuminated the garden, followed by a crash of thunder. Instead of flinching, the old man simply watched with interest. "Try this practice with me," he suggested. "Take 3 deep breaths. On the first breath, simply notice what's happening around you right now. On the second breath, notice what's happening inside you, your feelings and thoughts. On the third breath, say to yourself, 'This is how it is right now.'" They sat in silence for a moment, practicing together as the rain began to fall. "Most people spend years fighting against their difficult emotions," the old man said. "They push away sadness, fear, or disappointment, hoping these feelings will disappear. But what we resist tends to persist. When we mindfully welcome what's present, it can finally begin to change." The woman thought about how she'd been unable to sleep for weeks after her business closed, her mind constantly replaying what had gone wrong, searching for ways it could have been different. "There's a simple technique for working with difficult situations," he offered. "When something painful happens, try saying, 'Yes, this too,' not because you like what's happening, but because it's already here. Fighting reality is like punching water. It exhausts you without changing anything. He shared a story about a teacher who was falsely accused of wrongdoing and faced public humiliation. Instead of defending himself or becoming bitter, he simply said, "Is that so?" and continued his life with dignity. Years later, when the truth came out and people apologized, he again said only, "Is that so?" He had found peace not by changing his circumstances, but by fully accepting each moment as it came. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens, the old man said, as they watched the rain create ripples in puddles. Not in our regrets about the past or worries about the future. When we fully enter the present, we discover a quiet portal to peace that exists regardless of external circumstances. The rain fell steadily around their shelter, but now the woman watched it with curiosity rather than resistance. As the rain slowed to a gentle mist, they left their shelter and walked toward a small bridge spanning a stream that had swelled with the rainwater. "Look at the stream," the old man suggested. "Where does it begin and end? Can you find the exact spot where rain becomes stream, becomes river, becomes ocean?" The woman studied the flowing water. "It's all connected," she said after a moment. "You can't really separate one part from another." "Exactly," he nodded approvingly. "Nothing exists by itself. Everything arises because of countless other things. This is the principle of interdependence." They paused at the center of the bridge, watching leaves and twigs flow beneath them, carried by currents set in motion miles away. "Your business situation wasn't an isolated event either," he explained. "It was part of a vast web of causes and conditions, economic trends, decisions made by people you never met, timing, weather patterns that affected shipping, global events, and countless other factors beyond your control." The woman had never considered this wider perspective. She'd seen her business failure as a single isolated event that reflected solely on her abilities and decisions. "When something difficult happens," the old man continued, "our natural tendency is to narrow our focus. We zero in on our pain, our loss, our embarrassment. But this narrow view creates a false impression that we alone have failed." He guided her to hold her thumb in front of her eye, so close that it blocked her entire field of vision. "Right now, you can't see the trees, sky, or stream, just your thumb. But has the rest of the world disappeared? Of course not. This is what happens when we become fixated on a personal setback. We lose sight of the larger picture." Moving her hand away, he continued, "When you understand interdependence, you see that no situation exists in isolation. There's always a bigger story unfolding." He taught her a visualization practice. When facing a difficult situation, imagine zooming out like a camera pulling back from a close-up to a wide-angle view. See all the various factors that contributed to this moment, not to escape responsibility for your part, but to understand the full context. The woman tried this with her business situation, mentally stepping back to see the economic downturn that had affected all businesses in her industry, the construction project that had blocked access to her store for months, and a health challenge that had limited her ability to respond effectively. "There's a freedom in this wider perspective," the old man explained. "When you recognize that no situation is entirely personal, that it's the result of countless interconnected causes, the sting of failure loses its sharpness." He added, "This doesn't mean ignoring your role or avoiding learning from mistakes. It means understanding that both successes and failures arise from complex webs of conditions, most beyond any individual's control." The woman realized how much of her pain came from taking full personal responsibility for an outcome that had countless contributing factors. "There's also a practice of observing the hidden connections in every situation," he continued. "When something disappoints you, ask, how is this connected to everything else in my life? How might this apparent setback be a necessary link in a chain leading somewhere I can't yet see?" He shared stories of people who found that their greatest apparent failures created unexpected pathways to fulfillment. The lost job that led to a more meaningful career. The relationship that ended painfully but created space for deeper love. When you truly understand interdependence, the old man concluded, you see that nothing is ever truly lost. Energy simply changes form, flowing from one manifestation to another, like water moving from rain to stream to ocean and back again. As they continued their walk, the path forked before them. To the left stretched a steep, challenging trail up a hill. To the right lay an easy, flat path that circled around the base. "Which way should we go?" the old man asked. The woman hesitated. "The right path looks easier. And the left? It's too difficult. I'm already tired from our long walk." The old man nodded thoughtfully. This is exactly how most people approach their problems. They either choose the path of least resistance, avoiding difficulty altogether, or they push themselves too hard, creating unnecessary struggle. Both approaches miss the deeper wisdom of the middle way. He gestured to a narrow trail between the two paths that she hadn't noticed before. This middle path represents a balanced approach to life's challenges, neither avoiding difficulties nor creating unnecessary hardship. As they walked the middle path, he explained, when facing setbacks, some people fall into harsh self-criticism, beating themselves up for every mistake. Others deny responsibility entirely, blaming everyone else. Both extremes keep us stuck. The woman recognized herself in his words. After her business failed, she had swung between blaming herself for everything and making excuses that absolved her of all responsibility. The middle way teaches us to find balance, the old man continued. You acknowledge mistakes without harsh judgment. You take responsibility without crushing yourself under blame. This balanced perspective allows you to learn and grow. He pointed out how this applies to problem solving as well. When troubles arise, some people frantically try to fix everything immediately, while others become completely passive. The wise approach is to take thoughtful action without desperate rushing. They paused in a small clearing where they could see both the steep path and the easy path from their middle vantage point. There's also the balance of effort and relaxation, he added. Have you ever noticed how solutions often come when you stop struggling for them? The mind needs both focused attention and open spaciousness to solve problems effectively. The woman remembered how she'd struggled for weeks to figure out why her business was failing, pushing herself to exhaustion without answers. Then, one morning while gardening, not thinking about the business at all, the solution suddenly became clear. Finding the middle way requires practice, the old man acknowledged. One simple daily exercise is to notice when you're leaning toward extremes. Are you pushing too hard or avoiding effort? Are you blaming yourself harshly or refusing to take responsibility? When you notice these extremes, gently return to center. He shared a story about an ancient teacher who was instructing a student who was also a musician. How should I approach my practice? The student asked. The teacher replied, how do you tune your instrument? If the strings are too tight, they break. If they're too loose, they won't play. The same principle applies to life, neither too tight nor too loose. This balance brings clarity, the old man explained. When your approach is neither too harsh nor too lenient, neither too rigid nor too scattered, you see situations clearly. From this clarity, wisdom naturally emerges. So the middle way isn't about being lukewarm or indecisive? The woman asked. Not at all, he smiled. It's about being precisely calibrated for each unique situation. Sometimes the balanced response is gentle, sometimes it's firm. The middle way isn't about splitting the difference. It's about finding the response that brings the most wisdom and compassion to each moment. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the garden path, the woman and the old man reached a viewpoint, overlooking the entire journey they had traveled. The storms had passed, The clouds had cleared, and the landscape was transformed. The woman looked different, too. The heaviness she had carried when they first met had lifted. Her eyes now held a quiet confidence, a peaceful strength born of deeper understanding. "Thank you," she said simply. "I came here feeling like I had lost everything. I'm leaving knowing that real loss is impossible when we see with clear eyes." The old man smiled warmly. Remember, these teachings aren't just ideas to think about. They're paths to walk, practices to live. Each time you face a challenge, you have another opportunity to discover that you never truly lose. Dear friend, if these 10 teachings have touched something in you, please consider subscribing to our channel for more wisdom from the Buddhist tradition. Each week, we explore timeless principles that can transform how you experience life's challenges. Share this video with someone struggling with feelings of defeat or failure. These ancient teachings have helped countless people throughout history find peace amid difficulty. They might be exactly what someone in your life needs to hear today. Remember, you never lose at any situation when you see with the eyes of wisdom. The apparent defeats in your life may be your greatest teachers, your most profound opportunities for growth. Until next time, may you walk the path with an open heart and a clear mind. Subscribe now and join our community of seekers walking this path together. Thank you for being here.